Well, howdy friends. Brian Flechsig of Mad River Outfitters and the Midwest Fly Fishing Schools, and welcome back to another one of our Q&A episodes. So let's jump right in, although first and foremost, as always friends, we appreciate you being here. We really appreciate it. Without you all, we wouldn't exist. And as always, send your questions to admin@madriveroutfitters.com, or better yet, pick up the phone and give us a call. But if you do send us a question via email, first and foremost, they're all answered. But if we do pick your question here for the YouTube channel, we will send you out a free hat and a fly box. So thanks as always. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and send those questions over to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. Once again, we cannot get to them. No way we can get to them in the comments here on YouTube. So all questions over to our email or call us. So anyway, let's jump right in. First question is hold on. Did you hear that? First question comes to us from Jim, and Jim forgot to tell us where he's from and an address. I do know that I did answer Jim, as all emails get answered, but for some we pick for the YouTube channel. But this is some questions that we've gotten quite a few of. But Brian and MRO, enjoyed your latest YouTube video on leaders. A lot to grasp for a novice trying to become an intermediate and master some of these techniques. Well, Jim, stick with it, man. It's worth it, and it's not that complicated. But uncertain about how much tippet to add when fishing with a PolyLeader, an 8-foot PolyLeader or a 7-foot VersiLeader. You mentioned the leader for sinking lines and tips should be 4 to 5 foot. The PolyLeaders and VersiLeader I have are longer than 4 to 5 foot. Are a PolyLeader or VersiLeader considered a sink tip onto which I add 4 to 5 foot a leader, or should I only add a short amount of, say, 13 thousandths inch diameter tippet? Thanks. And then Jim goes on to add, by the way, I may be stopping by MRO on September 29th on my way to Illinois and Minnesota to lake fish with brother and cousin. Well, I just realized that September 29th is past. So Jim, I hope that you made it into the shop, and I hope you enjoyed your visit. So anyway, great questions, and we get these a lot. First and foremost, to explain, VersiLeaders and PolyLeaders they are in fact called leaders. And I don't mean to sound flippant, but they are leaders, called leaders for a reason, because that's what they are. Under no circumstances are these sink tips or anything else. I mean, I use a lot of the floating ones, but they also make them in different sink rates. But they are not sink tips. They are butt sections of leaders, okay? A lot of folks will try to tell you that you don't need a sinking tip fly line, that you can just loop on a VersiLeader on the front and it's just as good, and that's just simply not true. They do not replace sink tips. Now, I do use the sinking VersiLeaders, say if I'm fishing a streamer on my 4-weight or 5-weight, on a floating line. They can be helpful in shallow water, but again, they absolutely do not replace a sinking tip fly line. That's right, in a sink tip fly line, the formulas that we've shown you over the years are typically 4 to 5 foot in length. But in this case, this is a butt section of a leader. Now, I love to use, especially here in the East, fishing smaller dry flies, I fish a lot of these furled leaders. And you can find these at madriveroutfitters.com, the Mad River Outfitters brand. There's a guy here in Ohio that makes these for us. And these are made out of thread. They're super limp, super supple, and they cast extremely well and allow for a perfect dry fly drift. Now these are 5-foot tapered butt sections to which you're going to add usually about 4 foot of tippet, making a grand total of a 9-foot leader. If I'm fishing, say 4X, I might just run 4X right off the front of this and say 4 foot of it. But if I'm going down to 6X, I'll probably do 2 foot of say 4X and then 2 foot of 6X to continue some semblance of taper. but usually about 4 foot of tippet. And for that matter, they will turn over 4 foot of straight tippet. I just prefer to have a little bit of that 4X in there if I'm going down to 6X. But 4 foot of tippet to that. With these VersiLeaders, these are 7 foot. So you would not want to run 4 or 5 foot of continued tapered leader off this. You're just going to add tippet. And yes, in the case of most streamers, I might add a foot to 1.5 foot of the appropriate tippet. On a larger streamer, yeah, probably 13 thousandths. On a smaller streamer, maybe 1X or 2X tippet. You can typically run the tippet right off of here. It has a loop in the end of it, so you can go loop to loop with your tippets. And then in the case of the VersiLeaders, the floating VersiLeaders, again, these are 7 foot. I love these for throwing larger dry flies like grasshoppers. If I have to cast a little farther, or maybe if it's windy. For example, when I'm in Montana, I'm always fishing these floating VersiLeaders from reel or PolyLeaders from Airflow. And you can just typically add about 2 foot of tippet to the front of these. On grasshoppers, of course, I'm usually fishing 2X or 3X, and 2 foot is fine off the end of that. So that's a very good question. We get that a lot. I think a lot of people screw it up. I've seen people before that buy that VersiLeader thinking that they're turning their floating line into a sink tip, and then they loop on a 9 foot leader. Of course, that's not going to do you any good. It's a butt section of a leader, and you're just going to add tippet to make it the length that you want that leader to be. So hopefully that makes sense. It helps quite a few of you. Again, we get that question a lot in the shop. So thanks again, Jim. Hope that helps you out. And if you see this video, which we hope you do, send us over your address and we'll send you out a hat and a fly box. So there you have it, friends. Another Q&A under our belts. As always, we appreciate you being here. Remember to send those questions over to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. They will be answered. And if it's an emergency or you'd rather speak to an actual live American person, you can call us at Mad River Outfitters. We're almost always open except when we're closed. So be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and stay tuned because we've got a lot more coming at you. Very similar to that video right there. And then, yeah, that one can't be duplicated probably, but we'll try.